You have quorums. You could take the mouse down there if you want. No, I could, yeah. Hopefully that's the last time I touch it. You're good to go.
All right, we'll call this, call the Facilities Committee to order on October 26th at 6:32 PM. And our first order of business will be to call a roll. Did we see Don show up yet? So everyone's present except Don Keeter.
He has not shown up on mine.
Okay. If he shows up, we'll note it. Approval of the minutes from September 28th. Did everyone get a copy of them, and any changes, questions, adjustments? Not someone want to,
So moved.
and second? So moved by Tim and seconded. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes. If I talk slow, it'll take longer. Public comments. Do we have public comments? Yes, please. Just at one of the microphones.
Push the button on the right.
Right, there we go. Can you hear me? Perfect. So I'm Megan Hines, live in the township of Menominee. Here to talk to you tonight about the possibility of the county leasing out the transfer station facility. So I'm a former Dunn County solid waste employee, currently employed at the city of Menominee as an environmental program coordinator, and as part of my job duties there, I manage the city's solid waste and recycling program. So I'm very encouraged to hear that the county is considering the options of the transfer station. It's a building that's near and dear to my heart, and I would really love to see it being used for the purpose that it was built. Residents, I talk about the transfer station almost daily in my job. Residents call and say, oh, I have this. I used to take the transfer station. Where do I go with it? Or, geez, I really wish the transfer station was open. I have to go to Eau Claire for this now. It's something our residents would really benefit from. And I think the county is in a unique position to still provide a service and be involved in solid waste and recycling through a lease of this facility to an entity that would be open to the public and serve them for construction waste, for large solid waste loads, and especially some of those kind of non-curbside items, electronics, appliances, tires, light bulbs, et cetera. Those things that we don't have a lot of private opportunities to properly recycle in our communities. People want to do the right thing. They call me every day wanting to do the right thing, but are really frustrated about the lack of options, or if there's no options for some of these things, depending on where they live and which municipality they live. Not just City of Menominee people call me. I probably get anywhere from 6 to 12 calls a week from people who live outside of the city in Dunn County. They just want to do the right thing. They found my number as someone who knows something about solid waste. They just want to figure it out. We've lost a lot of businesses, at least 3 in the area in the last year, that used to take some of these items, electronics, construction waste, Freon-based appliances. So there is a need for the facility. And I think the county has a unique opportunity there. And I'm really encourage you to consider moving forward with leasing out the facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we get any emails or anything for public comment?
I did not receive any for public comment.
Okay, moving on, discussion item, future of the Dunn County Transfer Station leasing. Well, does our corporate counsel have any input?
A little, yes. as you know, I've had some. I guess I have employed a kind of a cautious approach to allowing, or to move forward with allowing someone else to either own or lease the property. The nature of the county's activity there is use as a solid waste and recycling transfer station is something that's heavily regulated, very closely regulated. And the responsibilities that the county will have into the future they will endure for some time. And so I feel like it's appropriate to move forward with leasing the property, but I still need to be cautious, and there are a few, I guess there's some information that I still need to get. I'm trying to arrange a consultation with a guy that works with properties that have been used for things like this in the past. And just to make sure that I understand things, this is, there's a level of, it's a pretty complex web of federal and state regulations that come to bear on the use of the property, the things that it can be used for going forward, responsibilities of the owner and so forth. And so I just want to make sure that everything is covered well, both to protect the community and the county's interests. And so I think what I would recommend is that if the committee wants to move forward with it, that perhaps I would meet with Scott and talk about a timetable for trying to have a couple things wrapped up and then a process by which we can solicit interest. I know there's a lot of unsolicited interest now, but I think it's possible that we may need to focus that and invite. I think the uses are going to have to be, pretty narrowly defined as we ask people if you're interested in using this property or leasing this property, you can come forward. I think everything kind of has to be out there in the beginning so that, for example, we would not be able under law to put a grocery store there. There are some things, there are a lot of things that property could no longer be used for. And so we want to make sure that from the very get-go, anyone who's interested in it is able to understand what it is, the narrow scope of activities that need to, that must, it's a narrow scope of activities that would be permitted to operate there. And so I don't have any, I guess as an attorney, I'm not saying no, don't do it. I'm saying I think it's okay to move forward with it. But I still don't have a couple things wrapped up yet, to the point where, if someone came in tomorrow and wanted a lease, we'll have to get a lease agreement that's worded in a way that, makes, so that we don't have a problem with a tenant operating, in activities that aren't permitted and so forth. So, I apologize. I had really hoped to have a stronger position than that. But I just have been so busy, and but I think that, over the course of the next couple of months, I think Scott and I could probably put together a plan for how to how to be almost, I think, not necessarily an RFP, but something similar so that, we would advertise it as being available for those who are interested, create limitations on what it can be used for, have the lease agreement in a draft form that's ready, pretty much ready to go. And I think all that stuff would be important to do in advance so that we're not scrambling. But I don't know if anyone has questions. I'll try to answer them, but
I have a question if I may. All right. So with the gist of what I hear you saying is that this is like buying or leasing a property that was once like a gas station or a brownfield or something of that order?
yeah, similar to that. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what we have to be concerned about is only potential. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the nature of the use for as long as it was used, it's one of the reasons why the Department of Natural Resources regulates the activity so heavily. I mean, there are a lot of statutes and administrative code sections that deal with, getting a permit or a license to operate and responsibilities that endure after cessation of activities.
Is this something that, we'd have to deal with on the federal basis, EPA kind of situation?
I suppose that's always a possibility. I don't know at this point. I don't think there's a reason to think that the next move is contacting the EPA, but I guess you never know, We
Okay.
don't know what we don't know.
All right, all right. I'd say at this particular point, I'd like to encourage you then to, move forward in that investigation,
Okay.
So does it sounds to me like as long as we're leasing it to a business like what was there, the chances are much greater that this is going to be okay.
Yeah, I think the state law sort of dictates that a future use would be consistent with the prior use. Just basically for reasons that it's a similar activity, and it wouldn't be, it wouldn't change the property physically through, moving earth, digging, tearing a building down or building a new one in a different location, things like that.
Time frame for getting to where we put it out for bid. I mean, what are we looking at for a time frame before we could put it out for a bid on a lease? Are we talking March or are we talking sooner than that?
I think sooner is possible. I mean, but I keep telling you, I should be ready with it at the next meeting, and stuff always comes up. Just tonight, I was in a training all day in Eau Claire, and right after I got back, I had emails and phone calls and people standing in line to talk to me about stuff. And my plan was to dedicate my evening to reviewing some of the research that we've done and that, but I mean, I would think within 2 or 3 months is very realistic. For me, I guess I'm comfortable with moving forward with it. So I have enough information that I don't have troubles, I'm not planning on advising you not to do it. And so now it's just a matter of getting everything in order so that we can control the use that's made, the terms of the lease, and, et cetera.
Do you think December is too early to kind of tentatively shoot for, or is that That's only 2
Or
months.
what are you for?
As
the
far
fourth
as-
Wednesday, fourth, last Wednesday, fourth Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Uh,
Okay.
January, let's say January. Yeah, and then I'll shoot for December.
Supervisor Score, you had a question?
When the Dunn County had that facility, did we govern ourselves or was that still the same restrictions from the state and the federal?
Oh, yeah, I mean, we have, it's still on the books. We had a solid waste and recycling ordinance that applied to a lot of the process and, you know, the kinds of things that people brought in and that, but as far as operations, all the state law govern that. And it's evolved over the years. I think it first opened like in 1993 or 92, something like that. Maybe even sooner. But yeah, the state regulations, Department of Natural Resources Authority over waste facilities in general, they're all kind of grouped together, whether you have a landfill or a transfer station or whatever, the regulations governing the activity are very similar and require, very specific stewardship timeframes, maintenance responsibility for, taking care. Limitations on what you can do with it for, quite a few years. I think it's 40 years after the cessation of activities, after the formal close.
And is there a fee for all these regulations to pay for a license and stuff?
Whoever wants to operate there would
So
be
Dunn County does
responsible.
not have to pay for someone else to use that.
As far as I know, that's correct.
Okay,
I don't believe the county would have, unless the county wanted to operate something there again.
okay.
Yeah, it would be whoever, so if someone leased it and using example from the public comment, someone leased it as a place where people could drop off radios and TVs, electronic, appliances and that, so that they could be recycled. The operator of that activity would have to get a license in order to do that, and they'd have to apply to the DNR for it.
Even for waste, like, I don't know, never mind. Stuff that you can't get rid of, waste,
Well, that would depend on the scope of what the
Toxic
operator
waste.
wants to do. Well, yeah, you can't just show up at a facility that takes radios and drop off, radium or uranium or whatever. You're limited. They would be limited by whatever they're licensed to do, and people who want to use the facility would be limited by what the facility is for.
Yeah, it's just like my township place. They're
Yeah.
really limited.
Yeah, some of the facilities that we have now in the aftermath of the, Dunn County's activity coming to an end. Recycling is very limited in some cases. The kinds of materials that they are willing to accept or able to accept is limited. Some have a greater menu of opportunities or services, and some have a more limited menu.
Well, I like to see it being used for something and as quick as possible.
Okay. I appreciate that.
So you mentioned an ordinance, so will that still be in effect for whoever would lease it? Or was that just our own?
It's conceivable that an ordinance might have to be tailored for it because it's an activity that's not municipal in nature, that's outside of any municipality other than the town. Town might have an ordinance regulating such an activity, but that's something I could look into too. I mean, generally speaking, the limitations for the property are gonna be linked to regulation by the DNR, just of any proposed activity, to zoning. So, properties that are zoned, even if they're zoned, that might require a conditional use permit or a special exception in order to operate. I don't think our ordinance was really pertaining to the waste stream and recycling and for our own system. And so it probably needs to be tweaked, and there may be it may be necessary to pull together an ordinance before we move forward with the lease too. I'll look into that.
And so we could put into kind of the requirements that it would be open to the community to take certain things. I mean, that could potentially be part of the bidding process.
It could. I mean, the range of acceptable uses is probably quite limited. But we could, I think it would be in the county's, within the county's authority as the owner of the property, to say we would, and so instead of just someone who takes, only, AM radios, we want you to include kitchen appliances and televisions and computers and so forth. To try to maximize the value and the services available within the community.
I think we might wanna be a little cautious on how many stipulations we put on the advice, or when we want to get a bid on leases, because if we say you can only do this, we may not have anyone that wants to bid on it. So if you may dwindle your number.
Initially, I think you'd simply want to express, like an ad, if, I'm looking for someone who has a 1967 GTO, preferably blue, with a manual transmission. I'd like to buy a car like that. And, I mean, you never know. You might find somebody who says, I got one, and you might find somebody who says, well, I've got a Chevy Malibu and it's orange. Would that do? And then you have to decide, is that okay? I'm proposing to use it for this purpose, and, if you're okay with it, I'd like to move forward. So I don't think you would express it as limitations, but simply desirable attribute of the service that would be provided there. And you wouldn't have to make a list, just a general statement about, appliances and electronic devices, or,
Yes, go ahead.
One of the things that we'd all kind of hoped for and mentioned before was a clean sweep, scenario. And I think some of the proposed leaseors had mentioned that they would be open to that kind of thing. And so I think, kind of a sweetener for the deal. That would be something that can be considered along the way, or at least a promise that something like that could occur on the facility side.
Yeah, and that's something that, the county could express a preference for, someone who's willing to conduct one once a year or once every other year. A lot of times there are grant funds that are available for it. Who knows, maybe, I mean, we don't have a solid waste and recycling department anymore, but maybe, maybe there would be grant funds available that would also be an incentive.
Public safety or something like
Right,
that.
yeah, but it's still definitely something that could be expressed as a desirable service, or, a preferred service for whoever would use the property.
Hey, do you have a set price on how much we charge for a place like that?
No, well, it's a unique property in the county as it's the only one. And so I mean, we don't have comparables, but I think that's something that we could pull together in time for the committee to look at a final work. That could be part of preparation of the lease agreement and framing again, it's not really an RFP, but an invitation or or lease, one used transfer station, looking for, a tenant who will do these things.
Slightly used.
Yeah.
So when we lease or this isn't as you say, an RFL or whatever request for lease.
Or request for proposal, right, yeah.
Is that something that is not necessarily just putting it out for the highest bid, or are we putting it out for, how would that go out? Is it negotiable afterwards, or is it just, we need the best price we can get?
Either option, I think, is available. I don't think there's a requirement. There isn't a requirement that it has to go to whoever's willing to pay the most for it. I think, if it's perceived by the county board as benefiting the county, and, then I think there's authority to approve the lease.
And we'll kind of have that all written up when we put it out for lease.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Any additional questions? Any more input from you?
No. I can tell you I don't have your parks ordinance in final form yet, but.
Mark, did you want to speak to the transfer station issue at all?
Sure, absolutely.
You want to speak into
Could you
the
come on up
microphone?
and? So when we record your comments, you'll be included in the meeting.
Any opposition to Mark speaking from the committee?
All right, well, thank you. And I do apologize for not being able to attend right away at the beginning of the meeting, but I felt it was still important to try to get here to listen to what was going to be discussed. I certainly feel GFL would be interested in seeing what sort of a lease option or agreement that the county would put forth, and definitely we have some interest in looking to see how we could perhaps partner with different groups within the county, the community, the towns, to try to bring that facility back to life so that it could be operated as some sort of a transfer facility. But I think we're going to have to be very creative, even on our side, in what we would look at putting together. I've heard some very interesting discussion this evening about, placing limitations or conditions on whatever that request for proposal would look like. And I do agree. I think a lot of interested parties within Dunn County would like to see a pretty robust program put in place in some senses, but yet I think it's important that everybody realize that it all comes with a cost. And a lot of special interests might make it very difficult, but it's caused me to really start thinking about what this could look like. And does GFL want to go into this all by themselves, or do they want to maybe partner with some other groups or entities within the community to try to pull this off? I mean, I think we bring some expertise to the table as far as operations and transfer stations and disposal and whatnot. But I think there's other parties in the communities too that bring some real good expertise to the table as well, and skill sets, and maybe even some funding. So I'm excited to see what this looks like. And I really want to let you know, I think GFL, we're very open-minded at this point and want to see what could take shape, but we definitely have interest in it. We have our own hauling operations in Menominee and currently have to drive those route trucks at the end of the day over to Chippewa Falls, Eau Claire area to unload, and it would definitely benefit us to not have to travel that far. So that's the one aspect we're interested in, but we also realize that the incremental cost can get very high if you start asking for a lot of little extras sort of to be included. So those are my thoughts and some comments, but thank you for inviting me to come up and ask or make a statement. Appreciate it.
Can I ask one
Do
question?
we? Yeah,
In the chair's discretion.
yeah, go ahead.
But the only question I have is, what is your timeline? When would you like to see this done? As a businessman, I know that, you know, time is of the essence.
Well, I think our simple evaluation is really going to be what is our cost to currently truck it versus what would our cost to be now to truck and operate a facility. I mean, there is no loader here. We'd have to have loaders. We'd have to come up with the equipment and whatnot. And so that all takes time these days, and there's not always lots of these stuff laying around and available. So, you know, I'm hearing the timeline of perhaps something being put in front of the you know, released for public review or bidding or whatever we're calling this process, maybe in January. I can tell you January is going to be here like that. So I certainly would say the sooner the better. And I may have some coworkers listening in yet this evening, and we've had employees say, when is that going to get done? And so, I mean, we realize it's going to take some time but you know, a January timeline from my perspective is going to be here very, very soon. So with the holidays and everything, I would love to have a little bit of time to look at it. And I mean, even when you, I think, release something, depending on what you're looking for, I think even a 30-day response might be very quick, because I think there's a lot of things would have to be explored. You know, certainly a tour of the facility, possibly an initial tour with an ability to go back and look a little bit more. You know, a review of some technical files, perhaps. You know, obviously a new plan of operation would have to be submitted to the department, and even that takes time. You know, creation of that, the review costs, that all is going to take months and months and months. So even though you might think that, hey, we want to get this thing going, I think the actual timeline to actually have something opened up could easily be 6 months after you submit your request for proposals.
All right,
It's not going to happen right away.
thank you. I appreciate it. Just kind of wanted to get your perspective on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No. Yeah, I think he's correct. I mean, what I was proposing for January is to have a plan for how to move forward and a pretty decent draft of a lease agreement that could be modified for, you know, whatever use. And then maybe our guest missed it, but when I was talking about limitations, you know, I'm saying there can't be, we can't have someone want to put a grocery store in there, or, you know, a medical clinic or whatever. The uses that are available for subsequent user are limited by the nature of the prior use. So.
Any other speaking on the transfer station? Did we have someone joining us by Zoom or?
No, there's nobody on there. I had somebody that said they were going to, but I have not seen anything from them. I've got one of my staff on there right now. But I haven't heard any more from this other person, so
Don hasn't texted me, so.
Yeah, Don hasn't texted or tried to get on either, so. Not sure. I guess I have one question, maybe for you, Nick, or the committee. Do you have any opposition of tours of the transfer station? You know, I've been asked by a few people about touring the transfer station, just to have a look. You know, if we did that, it would get it in their mind, you know, maybe now they could start thinking about it. Yeah, you know, I'm thinking as the weather is nicer here, not a real cold temperature yet, but could walk them through there, show them the buildings, the facility there before it's covered in snow. Might not be a bad option. Any opposition to it by anyone, or?
Well, unless Nick thinks that there's a reason not to, I would encourage us to do it.
Yeah, I don't think there's a reason not to do that. My only suggestion, which isn't really a legal perspective, would be, maybe reach out and see if you can have more than one interested person at a showing,
Yeah,
just so you're not constantly driving over there to
yeah,
let people look, you know, like maybe once a week or twice a week at a set time, or, you know, whatever.
yeah, I can,
Just being practical about your efficiency of your
yeah,
time.
I can set something up and run them through it so they can see it.
And
Thanks.
then do you, you actually might want to consult with Megan, about what stuff is. I mean, are you familiar enough with it to talk about it, or maybe we could hire her for a quick, briefing on what's going on over there?
It's very empty compared to when she was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like location of things and that, I mean, if someone has questions, like, you know.
There's still buildings there, right?
The two buildings
Yeah.
are there, yes,
Yeah,
but there's nothing in them.
But
I
there
never
were
been to the
places-
place.
there were places where dumpsters were placed for recycling, and dumpsters were placed as huts for, you know, some of the staff out there would disassemble
Yeah, that's gone.
items. Yeah, I mean, it's all gone.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I guess the one point that Mark made that is kind of sparked my interest is maybe we do look at multiple partners if it's something that works out too, to keep more options open and make it more appealing for, maybe we can get multiple interested parties that can serve more than one purpose and spread the cost out amongst more without the county actually getting back into the recycling business, which I'm not sure they want to at this time.
I agree. I understand, and we'll. I think that's a possibility that we can work into whatever it is we're proposing.
Thank you. Very good conversation tonight. Thanks for the input from everyone and our guests. Anything? Does that conclude our conversation on solid waste at this time? Our transfer station? You guys?
From my perspective, yeah, unless
right.
there are more questions.
Then we will move on. Thank for all the input on the transfer station. I think we made some progress and starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel on what direction we're going, at least. Maybe not the answers, but we finally have some questions. We'll move on to discussion about Lambs Creek Park Playground upgrade. I think Scott, thank you. Scott has some feedback from the person that was here a couple months ago about playground equipment at the park.
Yes, if you remember, Tom Myers had gotten a hold of me. He was inquiring about upgrades of the playground equipment at Lambs Creek Park. He came in and was, here and spoke on it and, it was a question of what he was looking for. I did put it back to him about, a plan, what he would like to see done, and then if there were ideas of possible funding. So he contacted me trying to find out if anything had happened on this, if it had gone forward, and kind of indicated that Dunn County should be the one that plans this all out and finds the funding for it and all that. So I wanted to bring it up, you guys' discussion. And get it through the committee if there's any interest in doing any or looking at anything at Lambs Creek Park for upgrading playground equipment. You know, I had asked question of what he would like to see done. He believed there's 2 large pine trees that should come down, remove the existing swings, probably some excavation work, and then install new modern equipment. And then, probably some repairs on the pavilion as well, while it was happening. As we know, the county doesn't have a lot of money to throw around, so I wanted to bring it to the committee and, get your thoughts. At least we're still discussing this and thinking about it. And I don't know, I haven't checked to see if there's any type of grants out there for improving parks. And Nick, I don't know, we discussed one time about the playground equipment in the park and whether that's a legal issue for us or not. I guess you can talk about that part.
I don't think it's a legal issue. No, per se, there's a recreational use statute, that would apply. You know, I mean, so if you take things to quite an extreme, you know, like really unsafe equipment or something like that, then it would be a concern, but it's not my understanding that that's an issue. It's just outdated. It's old fashioned. And so, you know, there really isn't any concern with what's there. There isn't any concern if you were to update it. I mean, that wouldn't be a problem from a risk standpoint.
Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I noticed when I drive by this Lamb Park, you know, there's this big swing and, you know, all the parks that I've been to, you know, where they have like a teeter-totter swing. It's just limited to so many kids, maybe a family. But then when they install one of these jungle gym apparatuses and stuff, and then families come out. And in this area, it is a residential area, and that would be one place for a family, many families to come and congregate. But every time I drive there, there's nothing going on there ever. The only thing I see there is people parking their boat trailers. And I can see the concern of the people that want to make that better, you know. And if you make it, you know, get more equipment for more kids to enjoy it at one time, because if you got like 3 swings, that's just 3 people that can swing, you know. So I think they should, you know, make a effort to try to make that better.
I guess I would ask you a question or ask everyone a question. Who is it that we feel should be responsible? Are you saying this should come out of our facilities budget and we should start upgrading the parks with playground equipment? Or is this something that we want the public to do some fundraising and volunteering to create a fund so that it can be done through donations in private sector? What what kind of a feel I'd like a feedback from the committee as far as who's taking the responsibility. My understanding when this gentleman come in front of us was that they were gonna provide us with kind of a plan and then the cost of it and everything. And I believe from what Scott says, they're looking for us to provide a plan and probably supply the equipment and installation. What is some of your feedback and opinions?
The last time that individual, yep, I got it. The last time I was here when that individual spoke, I mentioned that our local Downsville Sportsman's Club, has funds available for stuff like this. It's not necessarily that we, covered the entire cost, especially tree removal, all that kind of stuff. But I know that there are other nonprofits in the county that, have money in their treasuries that, are looking for a project to kind of get onto or into, so to speak. I think it's something that, maybe we could have some people that, represent these nonprofits, i.e. Rotary, some of the different other organizations, service organizations. I don't know, do we have a Kiwanis Club here or Lions or, something on that order? That maybe we can kind of throw this out saying, hey, we've had some interest. Does anybody want to take the ball and run with it? This kind of thing, with some county cooperation. I don't know, when you drove by, did there's talk about dropping these big pine trees and stuff? I mean, something looked dangerous.
Well, they do have some pretty big trees there and I think that them trees are taking up a lot of room. So if they got rid of them, they would probably have more room for the playground equipment and maybe maybe a pavilion for picnic tables or something.
Sure.
And I don't know. I have no idea what the plan is, but I think they just want to have a place for people to congregate and, that's their idea.
The other thing is the local township. Is there anybody there that maybe, have a more vested interest in that neighborhood? Also, and then the newly formed, Tainer Lake Improvement thing that is kind of in its makings. Maybe there's something, that can be, kind of co-mingled in that regard. Find a project for people to get involved in and then at the same time looking at, okay, let's look at the lake, We're not looking for that much green space on the lake, but maybe it might create some community. That's all.
Where is the location of this?
It's right across the channel from Jake's Supper Club.
Oh, right where the boat landing is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or I thought that was just a boat landing.
It is a boat landing with a swing.
There's a park there.
There's a small pavilion there and some green space.
Besides that.
Yeah. On dry land, yeah.
Mhm.
Just out of curiosity, anybody know who put the pavilion there? Was it the county?
I'm not sure if that pavilion was donated or built by a club or anything. I'd have to
Okay,
I'd have to go out there and look and see.
okay.
I'm not-
Cause in my mind, that would be like, okay, contact them, just say,
Yeah.
you haven't done anything in 35 years. Well, are you interested?
Yeah, I can,
That's all.
I can definitely pursue with someone like that
Yeah.
or any of these other suggestions I can pursue and see if we can come up with some more information as far as what can happen with this.
All right.
So if, as far as a liability, whether we supply it or someone else supplies the playground equipment and the maintenance and upkeep of it, is there anything we need to be concerned about?
Just making sure that it's maintained, that it's safe. Frayed ropes, sharp edges, things like that. They begin to change the risk analysis. All things being equal, under normal circumstances, there really isn't a risk of liability because it's a recreational activity. It's a recreational use, so there's immunity for it. Parks with playgrounds are everywhere. And so it's just a matter of, making sure that I don't know where that line is, but it's just a matter of making sure that the line doesn't get crossed between safe and unsafe. And then the obligation would be ostensibly would be to remediate any concerns or remove the equipment that's giving rise to concern.
Go ahead, Ron.
Like Marion Park and park by Carnesville. Now, there's people that look after that place, right? They kind of take care of that.
Thatcher, you mean, or the one
Thatcher's
that's in
Park,
down?
yes.
That's one north, up by the
Yeah.
Barron County.
Yeah, so is this like saying that the park, Lambs Creek Park, is that being watched by somebody too? Or is someone interested in taking care of that? Or,
As far as maintenance goes, I don't know. I'm sure the facilities you must have mowing contracts with somebody.
As far as mowing, we do that. I hire seasonal staff to go out there and mow that in the summertime, so it's trimmed up and kept nice.
and you do
Uh,
Thatcher's Park and
Yep, we do Thatcher.
all the
too.
parks?
Yeah, so Thatcher Park was donated by a family that actually lives up there. And their family gets together once a year on opening fishing season, and they'll clean up the park, do anything there. But the rest of the time, the county takes care of it unless they're around. Now, that one, the family got steel picnic tables and benches, and they're bolted down up there.
Yeah.
But those were donated by the family.
And then the one in Marion Park in Sand Creek, does Sand Creek take care of that park or do we take care of it?
You're talking about
The
the
campground?
campground?
Yeah,
That's the town of Sand Creek that takes
Okay.
care of that.
Yeah, they lease that,
Yep.
from the county. And then they have, as part of the lease, they have responsibility for maintenance, upkeep.
okay.
So the direction we want to go with this, do we want someone from the public to spearhead this? Hearing the letter, they seem to think that the county should be spearheading that. I guess I'm not sure if that's something that the county wants to take on, or maybe this gentleman or a group of people want to get together and spearhead the process of trying to get some clubs and public donations and involvement.
Well, I think the people that want it improved, they should be more involved in trying to collect their money more than we should.
I had a thought, now, it kind of came and went. You were gonna investigate, on the different organizations that may be involved, and if whoever built the pavilion, check that out, just to see what's going on with that.
Yeah.
I think there's the Taylor Lake organization that has an ice fishing contest up there. I would kind of think that that organization might be a good one to contact. I don't know, I don't have any contacts up there at this particular time, but you know, somebody up there at the bar probably knows, who's ever you know, committee that handles that kind of thing might be a good contact also up there. I can't remember the name. You know, Ron? Who runs that fishing contest up on Taylor Lake in the winter?
Well, I know somebody that drills holes in the ice. That's about all I can tell you.
Okay,
And cuts the big, when they used to have that,
yeah, yeah.
where you jump in the lake, freezing for a reason. They cut they cut the hole for the ice for people to jump in.
Maybe they.
And I have a cousin who's on the township board. I could ask him.
Sure. Anyway, it just a few thoughts that kind of popped through my mind. That's. all.
Yeah, I can check into that.
All right.
Um,
The excuse to go down to the bar and check, do it.
Yeah. Also Nick mentioned checking with Ann in ENS and planning. That might be a place I can check with her too, to get more information on this topic.
Okay.
I'll put something together and report back next meeting.
I'll try to contact my sportsman club and see if we can, you know, willing to throw some cash out for something.
Did you have something you want?
Well, I was just wondering, yeah, how we can partner, because I think the county should support creating community, parks. But yeah, do we have the staff that can help with some of the bigger, like if we have to take trees down, do we have the equipment so that we can kind of in kind help, and then the funding of the actual equipment and installation might be another group?
As far as that, we would have the equipment by partnering up with the highway department. They would be able to take trees down and grind the stumps out and possibly do some excavation work.
So perhaps that's our kind of,
It's a possibility to
Yeah.
partner up that way.
So do I hear that maybe we try to make some contacts and point them in the right direction to get some parties that may be wanting to get involved? However, ultimately, we want to encourage the public organization to spearhead this, but we'll maybe try to help them get started.
Yeah, I think so.
Plausible.
So would you be reaching out to this gentleman and kind of give him feedback on what
Yeah, I
he
sure
may
will.
not like that we're not offering money, but I think offering some guidance and maybe get them pointed in the right direction and some.
I will contact him and give him an update.
The need is there. A lot of times the money shows up.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That would conclude the discussion on the park unless there's any other comments. All right, moving on. Staff reports, Fair and Fair Board. Deb was not able to make it to the meeting tonight. She didn't leave any reports with anybody.
No, she did not.
Okay, so we'll table that till next month. The Facilities and Parks reports.
Good evening, everyone. Our judicial staff have completed painting the safety yellow on light bases, curbs and bollards over at Judicial Center. So if you're around by Judicial Center, take a look at that. It really looks nice. Now the yellow paint on everything was all faded, and now it pops out. It stands out really good, especially with the new seal coating and striping on the parking lot. So it was a good project to get done. The other facility staff are continuing to prepare for winter, like getting the equipment switched over to move snow. They pulled the docks out of the Taylor Lake today, got those taken care of, and they were locking up the restrooms that we lock up in the park. So everything's set for winter. As far as projects, upcoming projects, we have some winter projects in Government Center building that staff are going to be doing. I have 4 doors and frames for offices that came in for extension. Then they contacted me with ordering a couple of more doors. So there's gonna be 6 doors and frames total to install in the extension suite. Then Human Resources indicated that they wanted to order 3 doors. So we have 3 doors there that are on order, and we'll be installing those. Also, E&S department would like to have a reception area as you come into their suite, so that gives them a little more security with reception glass and a locked door, so that people can't just walk into their suite into the back by the offices. So we have those projects for this winter. We started accepting bids for the asbestos abatement project of the old boiler room and laundry building. Get those prepped for demolition in the future. We had a good turnout on that. We're accepting the bids on October 31st. So we'll have a bid opening on that, and hopefully we get some good bids and we can get that project moving along. As far as facilities fleet, I don't have any updates other than that. Well, you already know that the 2 Malibus I'm adding to the fleet were ordered through Enterprise. I haven't got any updates on when they'll be coming. And now the replacement Pacifica's vans that'll replace the Caravans, those have been ordered. So those are also on order. So we're sitting waiting for those. Some of the Malibus in the fleet that we got last January are pushing 13,500 miles. They're really getting used. And then I have Mercedes working on the mileage, looking at the mileage, and any of the grant programs like through Human Services that we can bill back fuel consumed by those departments. We're gonna bill that back to those grants so we can get some money back. There's no point in the county funding their trips with the paying for the fuel and everything. So I had talked with Chris Corporal at one time about that, and she is all for that, charging back to that grant. So we're prepping that. And then we can take care of that and get some money back to us into facilities for that. I sent out a copy of the 2023 budget to the members. You guys get a chance to take a look at it, and just want to see if you have any questions. I tried to put some more detail and notes on there so that you guys are aware of what items are for. And broke some things up into different line items so that it makes it better to read, and you can see where, like, revenues, for instance, under revenues, at one time it was there was revenue from the fair. Well, that has changed now to a lesser amount, as we cut that down so that the fair has a better chance at making money. And then also we always get money from the neighbors. So that's a line item. And then we do lawn mowing in the summertime for highway at 3 of the shops. So I put a line item for that, showing that revenue. Same with transit. And then we get rent for the transfer station land, the farmland next to it. So I put a line item for that. And then there's a line item for the county fair. So it divides it up a little better so you can see where money is coming in from. And then also with the expenses, I added some other things, line items, so that you can see where that stuff is coming from, or where it's going actually. So are there any questions?
Just a quick question regarding the fleet.
Yes.
Those leases are 2-year or 3-year leases?
Those are written for a 5-year lease.
A 5-year lease?
Yep,
Oh, okay.
but we initially did that in 2018. That was done prior to me being manager. And that
Mhm.
was when Public Works was a thing.
Okay.
We've continued from there. So we got vehicles in 2018 and we kept those for 3 years under advisement of Enterprise, that we have them for 3 years and we order new ones. Well, we ordered new ones, the 21s were supposed to come in August. They didn't come in till January. So January of 22 is when we got our brand new 21 Malibus and put them in service.
Okay.
So the 18s that we had were getting up their miles. They're getting up
Mhm.
over up into the 40,000 range.
Mhm.
So we go by Enterprise advising us when we turn those back in. So it's not set in stone that it's a 5-year lease.
Oh,
So we have the option to do that. So we turn those back in and then we got these 21s and now these 21s are running all the time and getting some miles racked up on them. The 2 vans that we have, the caravans that are slated to be replaced when the Pacificas come in, those are both in the 50,000 range right now.
okay.
Yeah.
So when you had mentioned the miles and I thought to myself, leasing 2 years, 3 years, I thought, oh my God, they're gonna be way over
Yep,
by the end of that
and so
lease.
you look at a situation like that,
Yeah.
if you or I went out to a dealership and did a lease, we have to do how many miles per year?
Yeah.
Well, this is a little bit different because of the lease setup we have with Enterprise.
All right. Well, thank you. It clarifies that quite a bit.
No problem.
That building that you're requesting for asbestos to take out,
Yep.
do you have the asbestos identified already or do you?
Yes. Yes, I had a pre-demo inspection done by a company that does smaller jobs of asbestos abatement. So he went in, took samples, identified the items that are asbestos, what needs to be removed. Those reports were put out to accept bids. And that's what the process we're going through right now. So October 31st, we'll get the bids in. That'll be next Monday. Get the bids in from the companies that are interested in doing the job.
And is it the whole building that's asbestos
No.
or just parts of it inside?
Parts of it, yes, like pipe insulation.
And then when they take that out, they just knock the building right down.
Once they take the asbestos out, then it's prepped for being demoed without having to worry about asbestos disposal. And so once we get the go ahead for demolition, then those buildings will be demoed and taken out of there.
And so is that what that 775,000 asset building was in our current budget? That's gone, or is that being split out in capital leases?
So the 775,000 that was in there, that is for the total of capital improvements. It's from 21 and 22. Because we carried forward money from projects that weren't finished from 21. So there's a certain dollar amount there. And then the capital improvements that were approved for 2022, that's that money. So it's a pot together. There are projects, capital improvement projects that were slated for 22 that are not going to happen in 22. They're going to have to be carried, the money's going to have to carry forward. With COVID and the supply chain delays, it's not possible to get them done in a year. So we have to move it to 23 and move that money forward.
And so you broke it apart from like one lump? Cause it looks like there's no 2023 for that one line and but there's capital leases in various other places.
So what it is, are you looking at the expenses part of
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay. Let me get to that.
Yeah, it's under the public works.
Let's see. So that falls under the plant ops asset building. So there should be a dollar amount, which I'm not seeing on this one, that it wouldn't be in plant ops, but it's for capital improvements.
'Cause there's a lot of asset capital leases that are spread out between
So,
departments.
yeah. So there's asset capital lease under central transportation. That's for the leases of the fleet vehicles. And then there's the asset leases under plant ops. That is for the facilities trucks that we're leasing. And prior to this, when it was Public Works, all those items were in the overall Public Works budget. Now we have to separate those out into the facilities budget. And so as far as like the $775,000, there's been money approved for capital improvements in 2023, or which the county board is to approve next month. And once that is done, I believe that's when they'll put that number in there. And so that'll put in as a revenue for capital leases, and then, or if that's from borrowing or how much of it is, that would go into the revenue, and then it would go into the expense part of it. So then
Okay.
they would offset each other.
So it won't be blank for long.
Right.
Thank you.
I have a question. Go ahead.
All right, but at the same time, if we're unable to do those changes on that $775, that money will just carry over to 23.
I will request to carry that forward, whatever is left from projects that aren't done. Yep, I'll request that, and that's usually, is that a March when the carry forwards are done? I think
At the latest.
February, March of 23. I'd probably put in my request in February, and then I think it's approved in March for the carry forwards.
So these projects that are bid out, like that boiler abatement.
Yeah.
Who approves that? And is that just in-house? It doesn't come to the board or nothing? The committee or anything?
That was part of the capital improvements project that was approved for the 22 budget last November. So it's a capital improvement project. So then I go forward with I had to get the pre-demo inspection done first to identify what is asbestos in there. And then I run it through Patty Isaacson for putting out for bids, to accept bids on doing the work.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Moving on from that, energy, I did email Abrina about her report, and I have not gotten an answer back from her. I didn't get a response, so last time I had talked with her, she was gonna plan for giving a report in October. So I guess I will reach out to her again. We'll see if we can get her lined up for November to give that report. See how she's coming. I know she did say that she had a lot of information. It was gonna be a pretty detailed report. So I'll reach out to her again here and see if I can get a hold of her and get a better timeline and get her scheduled. That is it for my reports.
All right, no other questions? Moving on to corporate council staff report, nothing there, correct?
True.
Consideration for actions taken by the committee, camping in the parks. I think we're gonna table that at this time, correct?
Yes, you'll have to. I apologize, but
Okay.
I'm not prepared with a final draft yet.
However, if you want to, we should begin to really get some ideas as far as, I don't know if you have any feedback for Nick as far as how we're moving forward, what camping we're gonna do, or if we're doing no camping. How was that being? How were you moving forward writing this up? Did we give you some guidance last year?
I'm gonna ask Scott to help me out. So there's one park that the Boy Scouts or the Scouts use.
Yep.
Once a year for an educational activity where they do some camping.
Yep, that would be 22 Mile Ford Park,
Right.
north of Colfax, and they always contact me for permission.
Right.
And I do.
So
send
I
them a
think,
permission.
basically the position, I guess I felt or the direction I felt I got was generally speaking, no camping allowed. But because of this, it's been a tradition. It's, it's the scouts. The situation that gives rise to greater concern is the person who puts a camper, a motorhome or whatever in the park and then lives there for extended periods of time or stays there. So that's what gave rise to it. The truth is the parks really aren't oriented or designed for any kind of camping at all other than primitive camping, and they don't have spots. They're not, the elevations or the geographical contours don't lend themselves well. I mean, there are flat spots, but they're not designed to be flat spots for camping. So generally speaking, no camping. I'm gonna have to carve something out for the rec park because there has been camping there. You'll have to consider, I guess, the frequency of the activities. I've already been in touch with KT Gallagher to talk with her about issues that would arise in the context of camping in the rec park. The more it occurs, some delineation of responsibility for septic and electrical connections and water, potable water. And so, but basically no camping except for, limited educational purposes. And a permit would come from, I don't know, either the facilities division or department or the health department. I'm not sure who it would be, one of those two, I guess.
For the rec park, it would be the health department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think 22 Mile Ford, well, whoever it is, they'll
Yeah.
be listed in there.
22 Mile Forward, I've given a permission letter, and then the family that donated Thatcher Park has a standing
Yeah,
permission for the opening weekend of fishing. Other than that, that's the only ones that I have for giving permission to anything, so.
and I think if the facility, if you wish to, consider short-term, 1 or 2 night primitive tent camping or something like that, I mean, I think that's within your prerogative. And if you decide that you wanna to go that route, I don't think it would take too much to revise it. I guess my obstacle for getting a final draft of it to you is that I'm trying to include, I guess I could either focus specifically on camping and just give you an ordinance about camping. But what I've been trying to do is incorporate other ordinances and some resolutions that already apply to the county parks. And they're not codified, so if you don't know when the county board adopted it, good luck finding it. You're gonna have to do a word search in 150, well, the county clerk has the county board proceedings going back to the late 1880s, I think. And you'd have to do a word search in PDF documents in order to find it, if you don't know where it's located. So what I'm trying to do is bring these ordinances out, the ones that are really much more germane to, use of parks in 2022, and get those into the county code so that I can find them and you can find them, and people out in the county who want to know what the rules are, how late they're open, whether they can have dogs or guns or campfires or whatever, so that they know what the rules are. Just make it easier for them. And that's kind of what's bogged me down, is that there really is a lot of stuff to bring in. And I'm not sure, I guess I feel like camping probably isn't a real heightened concern. It was an anomalous situation that led us to talk about this in the first place. It was a very unusual, very uncommon statistically unlikely thing, and it's been resolved. And so it hasn't been, so I try to triage all the stuff that I do. And this one keeps getting bumped back to the back burner. I apologize.
I think that we do want the thorough
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it would be
process
better.
and not just slap something together.
Yes.
I bring this up because we got a couple members on the committee now that weren't on the committee when we first started this conversation, so I wanted to get them into the loop a little more. Supervisor Score, go ahead.
Well, we have the regular park that's being leased by the race track and the hockey. Does that, in their lease, do they have camping for being allowed?
I don't think they do. Although I
But-
cannot recall.
But they do have people show up for their events and they stay overnight once.
Yeah, camping has been. It's been allowed all the time in the past, not as a campground, but incidental to activities that occur at the rec park. For example, during the county fair. The men and women who run the carnival and the attractions and sell food. They all have campers there during the fair. They set everything up and then that's where they live until for the 4 days that the fair is held. And so there is it really doesn't violate any ordinances. It's consistent with what we've done in the past and we haven't really had any problems with it. And so my intent would be to try to capture what it is that's permissible and make it clear, so that people aren't just like going down the freeway and it's getting late, let's pull off. And I hear the Dunn County Rec Park is a great place to stay the night or whatever, so the camping would truly be incidental to activities or events that are going on there, that kind of thing. That's what I'm aiming for.
Well, I'm just saying that, since they're leasing it, they should be responsible for that activity with the camping and stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the things that KT and I are trying to coordinate is who, how it gets managed. It's a little more complex because the electrical outlets outside of it's for those of you who haven't been on the county board for a long time, there's this concept called the footprint. It's in quotation marks. The footprint is the space that the Hockey Association has within its lease. It has a legal description. It's not a parcel. It's not a certified survey map. It just has a legal description and it includes the curtilage around the large building where the hockey occurs, and it includes the building next door, what do you call it? The horse barn or
That is the cattle barn.
the cattle barn. The wash racks that are in between are part of it. And the
The hog barn and the.
hog barn, and I think the office is.
The fair office.
The fair office is all
And
this.
exclude that, water runoff across the street, that's not theirs no more? Or is that part of the footprint too?
That is
that-
not,
That's been revised.
it's been revised. That's not part of the footprint.
Okay,
Yeah, that was removed a few years ago. The city of Menominee wanted quite zealously and intently wanted to have a regional pond for runoff.
so
water
they can collect
runoff.
money
And-
from the runoff.
Well, I don't know if they collect money or not. They essentially, they asked us where they could put it. But it's going in somewhere, so you pick the spot.
Yeah.
And so the west side of, what is it, 17th Street?
17th Street.
The west side of 17th Street was selected as being, that large pond that's in there doesn't interfere with the use of the rec park. And the Hockey Association had reached a decision that they weren't interested in developing it as a parking area. And so that was removed from the footprint. But anyway, there's this footprint, and some of the electricity is in the footprint and some of it's out, and who pays the bill on the meters. These are all like integrated issues. The rec park is a kind of a patchwork of improvements. Over the years, the gas lines and electrical lines and water lines and all the things have come in, and they're Bob Schultz was kind enough to provide us with a color-coded map of where everything is. A few years ago, Bob is with Xcel Energy, and also an active or former board member from the Hockey Association. Anyway, it was not designed in one meeting. And so there are issues with who's, what, some of the electricity goes to the Hockey Association, some goes to the county. So those are things that, they have to be worked out, but we can deal with them. We just can't, we can't draw lines in the grass and say, if you park here, you have to pay the bill to this person, and you park here, you have to pay to. So I think it's stuff we can work on, but there is no clear, it gets a little complex, I guess is my point. It was, the old joke, what is a camel? It's a horse that was designed by a bunch of committees, right? Well, the rec park is kind of like a camel. It was much larger, and it has evolved with the infrastructure that's come in, and it's an interesting area.
I guess as facilities manager, I would ask the committee if they would like Nick to do work on two separate, exclude the rec park and do that as a separate. Only because there's so much more confusion of the rec park as to who takes care of what, who does what, where do you get your permits, camping, all this stuff. Is that, my intent after the county fair ended and the racing season ended, now get meetings together with all the players to get the exact specifics of camping at the rec park so that we're all on the same page. As far as the parks, the rest of the county parks, I'd like to get on the same page as that for camping, hours of the park, if hunting in the parks, any of that stuff, to get that stuff so it's clear. I don't know of anything that is clear for sure on these parks with regards to that. And I get questions from people about hunting, about camping, about, any of that stuff, or hours of the park. So I'd just like to have it cleared up so that everybody knows. And then also rec park, same way. There's confusion about that. I know public health has some turnover in their inspectors, and they were talking to Deb during the fair and saying that the carnival had to have permit for camping. And in the past, she swears that they're exempt, but she had, I don't know if she looked that up or not, but she was going to provide that. So my intent is to get together a meeting with public health, with hockey, with racing, with Deb from the fair, to get some of this stuff figured out as to who does what. And then you'd be able to come up with something there as far as information on that one. So
Yeah, that could easily be broken down into the two pieces. One just parks generally, and then the rec park that could be plugged in anyway.
Okay.
Ron, shut your speaker off.
My mom's in the hospital, sorry.
No,
Ron, shut your speaker on.
Okay, okay, all right.
There you go.
No, what I was just saying, shut your
No worries.
speaker off. You certainly, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Turn off your mic, that's all.
Yeah, just because it's being recorded.
Okay, well, I recorded my
Yeah,
conversation.
no, that's okay. Looking out for your privacy.
I think, just one comment if I may. I think it's a great idea to kind of set this stuff in stone. Because the rec park, because it handles so many different people and so many different things. I think it is not a county park. It is something altogether different.
yes, it is.
And to do it separately is a great idea because we can conclude the parks themselves, and the rec park is a beast, like you say, in its own. I don't think we should be paying for any of the electricity when the parks aren't in. When it's closed, we only get $1 for the rec park as it is for hockey. We shouldn't be paying their electricity too. But that's a soapbox I won't get on.
Well, I'll work with Nick on that as far as how I proceed and get some meetings together and we'll get that information and we can get that worked out too. So, yeah.
All right.
I had,
Go ahead.
I had
Yes,
one
please.
thought, if I remember correctly, about like operating businesses in the park. I know that was in the initial draft, and I just worry, like, I don't want people like setting up shop or whatever, but some of the recreation using the boat landings and things, I know that was going to be maybe excluded, and I think those are some of the businesses we might want in the county so that they could pick up people at different spots, drop them off, they tube down, or they put in a canoe or kayak. So I'd hate to preclude those types of businesses for actually using the parks to just drop off.
Fair enough. I mean, I can spend some time thinking about it, and I can certainly present alternative language or highlight language that relates to that so that you can talk about it a little more. And you're not, I try to give a written formal voice to what it is you'd like to have in there, and but I'm not the decider, the committee is, and ultimately the county board. And so if if there are things you'd like to work on or work through or change a little bit, we can work on that for sure. I think my concern, or the concern that I had that led me with that was a proposal by a business that was going to be running busloads of people back and forth multiple times per day, and utilizing the county park as a base of operation for the activity, which I felt was probably not. It's a park for everyone, and so monopolizing it that way seemed unfair. But the thing went out of business. I mean, they didn't operate for very long at all, and then they weren't there anymore. So I didn't need to draft the ordinance for it.
Yeah, I think using it as their headquarters
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, but I was just saying the shuttling part, I've seen it in state parks, you drop someone off on the Kickapoo River somewhere and pick them up. It doesn't seem too disruptive. And since most of the county parks are boat landings.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but
All right. Then moving on from the parks, consideration of reports, resolutions, and ordinances. To be recommended to the Dunn County Board by the Facilities Committee. We have none at this time. Last item is to set the next meeting date. The next meeting would be the night before Thanksgiving. I would encourage us maybe to move it to the following Thursday, the last Thursday of the month. Yeah.
Thursday or Wednesday?
Or Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Like, are we switching days?
Yeah.
What day is that?
The 30th.
That should be fine.
All good? 30th it is then. Do you want, I'll bring this up again. I did have someone mention something, but is 6:30, is that, it may seem a little late. Is it something that you would like to move forward a little bit or continue to leave it at 6:30? We could look at 5 o'clock or something if you wanted instead of 6:30. Just any opinions on that?
I work, I've done it 4 and to get here at 6:30 and supper and, clean up the program a little bit. I need every minute, to be honest with you.
Okay,
But I can pick it up, I can pick up the pace too if I need be.
I don't care.
I'm flexible. If we wanted to move it up, I won't mind it, but I'm okay with it where it is. Maybe
I
for,
just, 6, that'll work,
could we do 6 instead of 6:30? Maybe get these guys home a little earlier at night? Oh,
Do that.
you guys, 6 okay with you guys?
Always.
All right. Let's move the meeting up to 6 o'clock and we'll make it on the 30th for next month.
Are you doing that as a indefinite change or a permanent change or?
I think so, right? Are you
Okay.
okay with that?
That's fine. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I'll let Chris know too.
Yeah, if there's an issue with the room or something, let us know and we may have to reconsider.
I doubt there is.
All right, then I would say that we are adjourned. Oh, did I?
Oh, no, I'm talking.
Okay. I thought we had very good.